Hey guys, Sam here and welcome to another FIFA 17 experiment. I'm recording an experiment during the day, which doesn't happen very often. But today, for you guys, I have the Bundesliga playoffs. This was the hardest to divide into conferences. I thought it would be East and West in Germany, mainly because they have a lot of history with East and West Germany. But it turns out that it was actually easier to split these conferences in North and South, but even that wasn't easy. There's no clear-cut 9 teams in the South and 9 teams in the North in Germany. In fact, there's 10 teams in the North and 8 in the South, and I decided that that's how I would roll with it. I would go 10 in the North, 8 in the South, instead of going 9 and 9 and having an odd number of teams in each conference. I decided even number of teams in each conference. One conference has 2 extra teams, so it is a little bit more difficult for those teams, but I thought it was the best way to do it because there was absolutely no way to divide Germany up into 9 and 9 with conferences. So I hope you guys don't mind too much. I will put up a little map so you guys can see what I mean. It was just way too hard to split it up, and I ended up going with 10 teams in the Northern Conference, 8 teams in the Southern Conference, and that's really the only change from this playoffs and the other playoffs. Of course, if you do go on to enjoy today's video, and if you're excited for more playoffs and more FIFA 17 experiments, do leave a like on the video. If you're new around here, you can also subscribe for more FIFA 17 experiment and career mode content. And also, do not shy away from leaving a comment in the comment section below. I am compiling a little list of your guys' ideas that I could potentially be making videos of, so go ahead and leave them in the comment section below, and I could eventually make a video on it as well. But without further ado, let's take a look at who would win if the Bundesliga had a playoff series. The obvious pick is Bayern Munich, but can they go through with it? Can they do it? There's only one way to find out, so let's get into it. Okay, so starting off with the North Conference, as I said, 10 teams in the North, 8 teams in the South. So in the North Conference, we have Hertha Berlin, Werder Bremen, Borussia Dortmund, Hamburg, Cologne, Bayer Leverkusen, Borussia Mönchengladbach, Red Bull Leipzig, Schalke, and Wolfsburg. The South consists of Augsburg, Bayern, Darmstadt, Frankfurt, Hoffenheim, Ingolstadt, FC Mainz, and Freiburg. So as far as the South goes, you do expect Bayern to win it, but there will be competition for those other 3 spots. A lot of those teams are very evenly matched up. So actually a lot of smaller teams will actually be making the playoffs from the southern side of things, just based on the fact that really, other than Bayern Munich, there's no other standout team that's like elite. There's no Dortmund or Schalke or teams of that sort. No, not even a Leipzig there. So I think the South will be a lot more interesting than the North. I think we'll have a lot of teams there fighting for those other 3 spaces. But without further ado, let's take a look at what things look like halfway through the season. Okay, in the North, it's actually Werder Bremen who's gone off to a very good start with 17 points on the board. Along with them is the undefeated Bayer Leverkusen. They also sit on 17 points in second. FC Schalke's in third on 14 points, just ahead of Hertha Berlin, who are also on 14 points. And just outside the playoff zone, you have both Borussia Dortmund and Borussia Mönchengladbach, just 1 point off at the moment, with Leipzig, Hamburg, Wolfsburg, and Cologne a little bit further behind. In the South, as you would expect, it's Bayern Munich who've gone undefeated so far, 17 points on the board. Hoffenheim are second with 14. Eintracht Frankfurt sit in the 3rd spot with 12 points, and Augsburg sit in the 4th position, just ahead of Mainz on goal difference, who aren't that far behind, and only 3 points separate making the playoffs and last spot at the moment in the South, with Ingolstadt right at the bottom. So anything can still happen in the Southern Conference here, but you would assume that Bayern's probably locked in the fact that they will be in the playoffs. Hoffenheim, I think, as well, with 7 games left, you'd expect them to have locked it in as well. Frankfurt nearly are there. And then the last spot, I think, will be really fought out by the rest of those teams, so it's bound to be an entertaining second half of the season. Okay, it is all said and done in the North, and it's Hertha Berlin who have seeded first in the Northern Conference. A real shock, a big surprise in my opinion. Although they are a very good team, I did not expect them to be first out of the other teams in this Northern Conference. Bayer Leverkusen take the 2nd spot, 2 points behind Hertha Berlin. Borussia Dortmund coming in 3rd, only on goal difference ahead of Schalke, who came 4th, and Borussia Mönchengladbach, who came 5th. So Borussia Mönchengladbach missing out on goal difference, on 2 goal difference to FC Schalke, which is just cruel at the end of the day. And yeah, some underperformers there. I'd say Dortmund and Schalke, especially out of those four, you would expect a little bit higher, a little bit better performances from them. But it can also be a little bit interesting, because should they both now step up, now that they're in the playoffs, if they both step up, they could be meeting in the final. We could have that derby between Dortmund and Schalke, which is so fantastic. Continuing on the same trend, there was no surprises in the south, with FC Bayern picking up only one loss throughout the regular season, picking up 31 points to put themselves in the #1 seed. Eintracht Frankfurt coming in second, 2 points ahead of Hoffenheim, and then a bit of a gap between them and fourth spot Augsburg. They were the team who ended up clinching the fourth spot. They were the team that did just enough to get it. So nothing changed in the top four other than Frankfurt and Hoffenheim's positions. So it's really Bayern's conference to lose at this point in the playoffs. You would expect them to be reaching the final. It's more of the question of who are they going to face from the north. I think that's going to be the biggest question. Looking at the playoff table before we get into any games, these are the matchups that will be taking place from both the north and the south. Hertha Berlin will play Schalke, and Bayer Leverkusen will play Borussia Dortmund in the north. In the south, it's FC Bayern versus Augsburg, and Eintracht Frankfurt versus Hoffenheim. And just looking at the table right now, I think this might be the first time that a first-seeded team does not make it to the conference finals, and I think it might be the first time a southern team wins a playoff. So far, it's been two northern teams. Maybe this is the time for Bayern to step up and get one for the south, win one for the south. Maybe they can do it, maybe they can't. There's only one way to find out. We'll kick it off in the north, we'll get those games underway now, and we'll see who's going to make it through to the conference finals. Is it going to be Hertha Berlin or FC Schalke, and who's going to join them? Will it be Bayer Leverkusen or Borussia Dortmund? Okay, so the first game comes from the first seed, Hertha Berlin, taking on the fourth seed, FC Schalke. And for once, I would say that maybe seeds aren't going to make any sort of difference in this game. Schalke are a very strong team, especially in FIFA. And I think Berlin are going to struggle either way. And as you can see, Caligiuri's made it 1-0. And Schalke look like they are the dominant team so far, moving into the second half. Hunter Lars come on. Imagine having him as a substitute. That's pretty good. And it looks like Schalke could potentially hold on here. Berlin sort of need that away goal if they're going to challenge Schalke in the next leg. And they do get it through Ibišević, who gets it in the 88th minute, giving Berlin a potential chance in the second leg here. Moving into the second leg, you would say that the advantage is probably with Hertha Berlin. They do have the away goal, and things are tied up as it stands. So right now, at this very moment, Berlin are going through just on the 0-0 draw, but things can happen in 90 minutes. Football is a long game, and Leon Goretzka's put Schalke up, giving them a very good platform now to go on and at least get extra time. But if they can score a second goal, they'll definitely cement that win. It's up to Berlin now to score. They scored away, so you'd assume they could score at home. And it's Caligiuri who's made it 2-0. Alagui Alagui, I don't even know, from Berlin makes it 2-1, but it is unfortunately not enough for Berlin. And I believe they're the first ever first-seeded team in these playoffs to not win their game against the fourth-seeded team. Moving over to the second game in the Northern Conference, it is between Bayer Leverkusen and Borussia Dortmund. I'd say more of a matched up, an even matchup, I would say here. Second seed versus third seed. But it's Ousmane Dembele who's put Dortmund up 1-0 in the 19th minute. And they're going to be a tough team to keep at bay, Dortmund. They have so many attacking options. And yeah, it'll be very difficult to make sure they don't score. But Bayer Leverkusen need to get on the scoreboard. They need to level things up right here. And it's Shinji Kagawa, who just being substituted on, has scored Borussia Dortmund's second goal with 2 away goals. Dortmund are looking good. Moving over to the second leg, it is all up to Borussia Dortmund. They don't have to do too much, to be honest, in this game. I doubt Bayer Leverkusen will score 2 away goals, but then to also score 2 unanswered away goals. Oh my goodness, they've... Alright, maybe they will. Bayer Leverkusen, through Chicharito, have gone up 1-0 and have a whole half of football here to make it 2, if they can. And it's not an easy task, but they've given themselves a chance. It's only 1 goal here Leverkusen need, but going to the last few minutes, it's unattainable, and they actually put up a decent fight. Maybe a little bit of a worry there for the Borussia Dortmund fans that they weren't able to score at home there. Okay, moving on to the south, and it's 4th-seeded Augsburg taking on the 1st-seed Bayern Munich. And Bayern Munich, you just completely expect to win this game, right? I mean, alrighty then. Augsburg are going to go up 1-0 in the 14th minute. Thomas Müller brings it back, making it 1-1 in the 26th minute. And Bayern now I would say have the advantage. And once Bayern get the advantage, they don't really like letting go of that advantage. So I would expect them to be really good. I mean, I don't expect Bayern to lose. That's the thing. I doubt Augsburg get another goal here. And it is 1-1 going into the home leg. FC Bayern Munich probably going to go on to win this tie. Moving on into the second leg, Bayern Munich don't have to do much, but Bayern Munich at home are a force to be reckoned with, and they will probably go on to win this game. Vidal puts them up 1-0, but Augsburg showing a bit of fight, making it 1-1. Thomas Müller again puts Bayern Munich up and makes it 2-1. His second goal of the matchup. He makes it a brace in this game, and it's Moritz Leitner, that doesn't convert his penalty that probably put Augsburg at a real disadvantage, and then Bayern just took advantage of that and have scored 2 more goals through Iron Robin. One was a penalty, and at the end of the day, it could have been a close game. It could have been 3-2 at one point, but it turned out 5-1, and Bayern Munich go through in convincing fashion. Probably the closest game of the first round is Hoffenheim versus Frankfurt, the second team in the south versus the third team in the south. Really even matched teams. I think both teams have very quality players. I would give the edge to Hoffenheim personally, but you never know with the simulations, and they're both very good teams in their own right. Hoffenheim have picked up a red card, but at the moment need a team on the scoreboard, and you probably say that that would favour Frankfurt. And it's Sebastian Rudy who's been able to convert a penalty to give Hoffenheim that 1-0 lead. And if they can hang on to it, it's a very good 1-0 lead, and they have hung on to it. So Hoffenheim looking good going into the second leg. Alright, kicking things off here, it's all up to Frankfurt. What can they do? What can they show here to combat this 1-0 deficit that they're going into this game? They have made it 1-0 through Abraham. 1-0 to Frankfurt, putting it 1-1 on aggregate and making it a penalty or extra time situation, I should say. With 30 minutes left to go, Frankfurt make it 2-0 and still are not clear in the woods yet. Hoffenheim still only need a goal. With 10 minutes left to do that, they haven't, and Frankfurt with a fantastic home victory there, 2-0. Really well done from Frankfurt, and have deserved, I would say, to go through to the final to play Bayern Munich. Okay, so having a quick look at the playoff bracket before we move into the next games. Schalke went through against Hertha Berlin 3-2, and Borussia Dortmund went through against Bayer Leverkusen 2-1 in the north. In the south, Bayern Munich convincingly went through against Augsburg 6-2, and Eintracht Frankfurt were able to bounce back after a 1-0 away loss to win at home 2-1 and go through to the Southern Conference Finals. Without further ado, let's get into the North. Let's get into the conference final there and the Revier derby between FC Schalke and Borussia Dortmund. A very strange situation. It's technically the third-seeded team in Borussia Dortmund playing the fourth-seeded team in FC Schalke, but you would argue that they're probably two of the better teams from the North and two very fierce rivals coming at it, and it's Aubameyang who's made it 1-0 at first. And if the atmosphere isn't, if these players can't get up for this game, then you're not deserving to move through to the final. It's Dortmund who's made it 1-0, and they've hung on to the lead throughout the entire game so far, and it'd be a great advantage going away if they can hang on to it. With 5 minutes left, Ousmane Dembele actually doubles the lead, and that is massive actually, especially for Schalke now, having to do a lot of work at home. Dortmund can just sit back and defend. It's a really cheap goal to allow right at the end that could have massive consequences on Schalke's future in this competition. Getting into the second leg, at home is FC Schalke, down 2-0, a lot of work to be done. They can't concede, they need a couple of goals, and that's never easy with Borussia Dortmund on the other side of the field. They're a very good team, very structured in defense, and a very good attacking team as well. And I'm sure Schalke are not going to find this game easy, and a half of football has already gone and they haven't scored. And it's looking less and less likely like anything's going to happen. Even Schalke cannot even get a goal on the board, which is disappointing. And it has actually played out to a 0-0 draw. Borussia Dortmund clinical over the two legs, picking up 2 goals at home, doing the job away, and are moving through to the final. You would expect them to play Bayern Munich, but can Eintracht Frankfurt give some sort of disappointment there? Right, here we go, the Southern Conference Final. Can Eintracht Frankfurt do the impossible? That is the question here. Can they get a result against Bayern Munich over 2 legs? Not an easy thing to do, but they've started off fantastically through Fabian. They've made it 1-0 in the 18th minute, and they just have to hang on now. Come on, Eintracht Frankfurt. I like to see the underdog win sometimes, and this is a thing where I imagine Frankfurt go through. Xabi Alonso being subbed on puts Bayern Munich in a 1-1 position, but it's Frankfurt going in with a bit of an advantage into the second leg. Alexander Meyer picking up a goal for them right at the end. Bayern have the away goal though, so it's still not said and done. Frankfurt have a lot of work to do, as do Bayern Munich. And this is where it gets difficult for Frankfurt. Going to Bayern Munich, going to the Allianz Arena and getting a result, that is not easy to do. And Bayern Munich go up 1-0, so as things stand right now, Bayern Munich are going through, and it's very, very difficult to see Frankfurt now getting themselves in a position where they, in fact, go through. Arjen Robben makes it 2-0. Frankfurt can push extra time with a goal here, but at the moment, no, they can't. Douglas Costa's made it 3, and Bayern Munich will be joining Borussia Dortmund in the finals. What else would you have expected? The two best teams in Germany are going to do battle once again in the final of the playoffs. Okay, so before we do get into the final, taking a look at how these teams got here. Borussia Dortmund went through 2-1 against Bayer Leverkusen and then 2-0 against FC Schalke. So two very good results, but you would probably, as a Dortmund fan, be looking at the lack of goals so far. Only 4 goals across 4 games. You'd expect maybe a little bit more, comparing it to Bayern Munich's run, where they beat Augsburg 6-2 on aggregate, and then Eintracht Frankfurt 4-2 on aggregate. They've scored 10 goals across 4 games. And it looks like they're very, very difficult to stop. So this is going to be a very big game. 2 of the biggest clubs in Germany. You'd argue the 2 biggest. Going to battle, one from the north, one from the south. Who is going to be victorious? Can the southern team get a first playoff win? We've had 2 northern champions. Can a southern team win? Without further ado, let's get into this final. Okay, here we go. Bayern versus Dortmund. Manuel Neuer is in for this game. He wasn't in for the rest of it, but he had to be in for this game against Borussia Dortmund. Biggest game for both these two so far in these playoffs, and it's definitely going to be difficult. Arjen Robben has missed a penalty in the 24th minute. Could that open the door for Borussia Dortmund? It looks like it's a very cagey affair, very tight between the two teams here. Who is going to win this? With 20 minutes left, it's still 0-0. Franck Ribéry has broken the deadlock in the 72nd minute, and that is enough to win it for Bayern Munich. No response from Borussia Dortmund. 1-0, and Bayern Munich are the Bundesliga playoff champions and the first southern team to win one of these playoffs. We had 2 northern teams winning in England and in Spain, and it's finally a win for the south through Bayern Munich in Germany, and it looked like it was a very well-earned, tough 1-0 win. But what else would you expect? They are so good in Germany, Bayern Munich. You just would have expected them to make it all the way and win it. And that is it. That is how things wrap up here with Bayern Munich, your champions. It might not have been the biggest surprise, but it definitely was entertaining along the way. Bayern Munich, you could argue, had absolutely no competition in the south, and you'd probably be right. But that game against Borussia Dortmund was really the big challenge for Bayern Munich, and they were able to get through. Dortmund take nothing away from what they did. Going through Bayer Leverkusen and FC Schalke, 2 very strong teams, is very, very difficult for Borussia Dortmund, but they just weren't good enough for Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich just are on that next level, and they are the Bundesliga playoff champions. Guys, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you do leave a like on it. Next time, we'll be moving to Italy, and we'll be doing the Serie A playoff. So if you're excited for that, do leave a like on the video. And the more likes this gets, the quicker I will do it. That is a simple fact. So if you guys can get smashing on the likes, then we'll get that as soon as possible. Also, if you're new around here, make sure you do subscribe. And if you have some new FIFA 17 experiment ideas, leave them in the comments section below. I'm compiling a little list of suggestions that you guys have had, and I will be making them in the near future as well. So thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I hope you did enjoy today's video. I hope you had a good day. I'll see you guys in the next one very soon. Keep it real.